Hello, welcome to another PG-rated review. Today's review is Guy Ritchie's King Arthur: Legend of the Sword. Now, I have to start off saying I've always enjoyed the Pendragon storyline. Like the story of King Arthur, the Round Table, Percival, Lancelot, Guinevere, Mordred, Merlin, all that. I've enjoyed them for a long time. I've read the Mist of Avalon series, Jack White's King Arthur's sort of retelling, and other ones like that. I played the Pendragon role-playing game for well over 20 some odd years, on and off, and again, it's still one of my favorite role-playing games to play for a night and all that. It's sort of low fantasy, but that's okay. And the movies, Excalibur, the first one I saw for King Arthur is still my favorite. Then they started sliding. There was the one with Sean Connery and Richard Gere. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it in there, but it wasn't very memorable. It was pretty sad. Sean Connery doing a British accent as a king. And then the other one after I saw this was Arthur, Clive Owen's Arthur, which was bad. There were some interesting parts where they're trying to show the Picts and all that. That I didn't mind. Clive Owen's Arthur being a Roman leader, I actually didn't mind that either. I took that and I actually used part of that idea in my Roman Pendragon game I'm still running for 15 years. So I again like that part. The rest of it was crap. So let me get to Guy Ritchie's stuff. Guy Ritchie's movies are awesome. I love them. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Rock and Roller, even some of the newer ones, Sherlock and all those. I enjoyed those. So I'm a fan of mostly of his movies. However, Legend of the Sword, not so much. It was a mixture of trying to feel like it was a British gangster movie, but set in Arthurian times, and the dialogue and the tone just didn't work for me. It was made us so much more high fantasy than the retellings have ever been. And again, just the idea that they made Arthur sort of a gangster guy just didn't sit well. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the retelling of Romeo and Juliet with Claire Danes and Leo DiCaprio, where it was sort of modern times, and it was two different gangs going at it for the Romeo and Juliet. I liked that. It worked. I even enjoyed the Kenneth Branagh retelling of Richard III, where it was World War II sort of idea. So I don't mind when they sort of try to modernize it or change the venue a little bit for a tale. This one didn't work. It was similar, trying to do both. It was like, okay, we're going to be a gangster movie, but still back in the Arthurian days. And, our dialogue's going to be gangster sometimes, but not all the time. And that's where it just didn't mesh very well. So unfortunately, like I said, I usually enjoy Guy Ritchie movies. This one, no, it's a fail. I'd have to give it, say, 5 out of 12 average, just domestic beers that you'd order when you're a kid because you don't know any better. So that's what it is. It wasn't like the action even wasn't that good. I'm going to go into more when I get to the spoilers, obviously, because I don't want to tell you too much. But even if you enjoy, like I said, fantasy movies or King Arthur movies, this movie just didn't hit it well. It just failed on so many different levels, and that's why I can see it didn't do well in the box office. So, as I said, 4 or 5 the tops out of 12 pack of just average beer. Now on to some of the spoilers. There was a lot of problems with it. Again, it starts off telling the tale of Arthur, and Uther Pendragon was his father. But he wasn't the full king. In none of the stories, well, okay, if they're retelling it, he's the king of England. But originally, in most of the stories, his dad was just a noble, one of the top guys, who did try to take control of England, Britain, and failed. His son, Arthur, was raised by Sir Kay's family. So Sir Kay was his adopted brother. Arthur served as squire and learned all the things of noblehood, knighthood, and all that from him. In Guy Ritchie's Legend of the Sword, he's a bastard again, but who grows up in a brothel, and his best friends are people who work in the brothel and hang around, and he becomes, like I said, a crime lord. That there's no nobility or anything learned from anywhere else, or how to be a knight. He's a gangster. Now, of course, he learns how to fight from an Asian, because of course there's an Asian teaching fighting schools in that time period when most people couldn't afford to not work in, the fields or anything else like that. But yes, there's they don't say if it's a gladiatorial school or what it is. It's just these guys are training how to fight from a Asian, Korean, not sure, just he's the Asian guy, and he's teaching them martial arts. So that's where he starts from. Now, in the legends, Arthur's sword is Excalibur, and it's a pretty important sword. It helps him, be recognized as the King of England. The watery tot throws him the rusty sword, as they say. So the Lady of the Lake gives him the sword. In Guy Ritchie's one, the Lady of the Lake gives it to his dad, Uther, and ties the bloodline, the Pendragon bloodline, to his dad and him. So immediate one. And then again, Guy Ritchie's Legend of the Sword. It's his uncle, Vertigan, played by Jude Law, who kills his uncle and takes control, thereby forcing Arthur to be hunted and hidden until he comes back to take over the king. So imagine, so Arthurian meets Hamlet meets gangster movie. And that's where it doesn't work. There's too much there. The original story, even modified like Jack White did and other people have done, Marion Zimmer Bradley, you can modify it enough and still keep it what it's basically supposed to be. Arthur growing up to want to be a knight. Arthur growing up with ideals of nobility, chivalry, and that sort of stuff. And that's what he brings to him when he becomes king. And that's why he introduced the Knights of the Round Table. He believes in chivalry and knighthood and the best for all. So you don't need... Mordred goes from being his bastard son from Morgana, his half-sister, to being a powerful mage who's after his dad way back when and summons up these huge magical elephants, like they're insane, they're skyscraper size, and they're crazy, that are summoned up by mages. See, that's another one I had an issue with, because Merlin and them were druids. They didn't call them mages. There was no, and again, a mage tower in the book, or sorry, in the movie. It's a mage tower. What the fuck? It's not D&D. It's druids were the ones who were learned, who knew the spells, and the women were the priestesses of the goddesses, most of the goddess, but they were priestesses. They weren't mages. So that upset me. Now, admittedly, part of the reason I didn't like it was because they just screwed up with a lot of the storyline. Like I said, introducing Hamlet, calling them mages and everything. Now, having a Saracen in there, that was fine, because that's in the King Arthur stories as well. So again, though, it's just, they're trying too much to put in there, trying to have that gangster feel to it, but instead of saying, like, it'd be interesting, sort of like New Jack City, an idea where it's, King Arthur, sort of semi-modern times, who's taking control of some gangs to be, the king of the underworld or something. I could live with that. But again, it doesn't work. So, as I said, Guy Ritchie's Arthur's dad, Uther, who's the king, gets killed by his brother, who is also a mage and does powerful magics by sacrificing people to make himself look like a half-demon, massive thing to cut down Uther. And then the son goes away, gets raised by prostitutes, and he learns nobility and good caring from them. And like I said, he runs a gang, and then he pulls the sword out because Vortigern, the sword is there, and he decides, I've got to find Arthur or the son. So he gathers up tens of thousands of people from all across England of the right age to bring them to Camelot to try to pull out the sword and then burn them when they fail. So he's rounding up tens of thousands of people all the time, just grabbing them up from all these cities to go to Camelot to try and pull the sword out and then go back it just doesn't work. The action scenes are, for the most part, not too bad, but there's so many times as soon as Arthur starts doing the sword, it's super slow-mo, and again, I gotta go save the whole thing for Excalibur. So yeah, the fighting scenes aren't that great because so many times they super slow down and everything, and it's just too much to take. And cutting, like the editing back and forth, are quick cuts. You can't follow what's going on most of the time. Obviously, Arthur wins and becomes king of Camelot. But now Excalibur is super powerful. It's pretty much the god weapon. It lets him move faster than anything. He can cause windstorms which blow people around. It's like a dust storm constantly, so people can't see except for him. And he's moving, like I said, at super fast, incredible speeds, plowing through everything. Like he's taking down 10 or 20 guys in no time with no problem. But that's not King Arthur. King Arthur, yeah, the sword helped him. It was magical and recognized as being magical, but it wasn't the uber weapon. King Arthur trained to be a knight. He was really good. He was incredibly powerful, but he wasn't the best knight. Lancelot was actually a better fighter than Arthur was. So that's what's it. And his best companions from the brothel end up being his close knights. Tristan, Parsifal. So anyway, I could rant on for quite a while of the things. It was just not good, not fun. I have one funny scene though. I wish I could do animated, because early on when they find Arthur and they bring him out with King Vermint to go talk to the people, they're at the top tower and there's like thousands and thousands of people and a mob out there, and the guy's just talking normally, going, "Here is your king." I want Monty Python thing or other people to be going, what's he saying? I can't hear him. It was just funny. I laughed at that, but I know I wasn't supposed to laugh. So anyways, thank you for listening. I appreciate feedback in that, but again, this is a movie I cannot recommend. It's just not good. Sorry, Guy Ritchie. Normally you do well, but in this case, you failed. Thank you. Have a good time.